Seches Bava Kamma Daf Tes continues the Gemara's discussion of how you pay off chayvus that you owe. The Gemara is bringing halachas of what happens when you sold property and others want to collect from it. The Gemara will have one more halacha there. Then the Gemara will go back to a contradiction we had in Psukim, and then we'll have more halachas discussing the topic. And towards the end of the daf, we'll get to our second Mishnah of the Masechta. That is the first Mishnah besides the first one, which will continue the halachas of Nezikin. So let's begin. We're on the last line and a half of Daf Ches. The Gemara says that Abai says halacha, if Reuven sold the field to Shimon without achayis, that means that he's taking no responsibility. He says if something goes wrong, you lose the field, it gets taken away from you, I have no responsibility to replace it for you. I'm taking zero responsibility on the sale, you're buying it as is. And then what happened was what they were afraid of was that they would lose the land because of someone that Reuven owed money to. That's not what happened. What happened was there were actually people who claimed and said it never really belonged to Reuven, or belonged to them. And they ended up taking the land away from Shimon. So the question is, does Reuven now have to pay Shimon because the land that he sold him was never really his, or he lost it? So the Gemara says that Abaye says it depends if he made a full acquisition or not. If he did not make a full acquisition, that is, he didn't do chazaka yet, because property is not transferred with the transferring of the money. Property is transferred with what we call chazaka, which tomorrow I'll explain soon what that is. But if he didn't do a chazaka yet, so then Shimon could back out of the deal. He says, listen, I don't want this, I don't need this headache, and the deal is not finalized yet, so I'm backing out. But once he did a chazaka, then he can't back out, and he also doesn't get repaid because there's no achrayis. And the reason is because he bought it not knowing what it was. He didn't know about anything that was happening in there. He took all the risks upon himself. He took the risk upon himself, that means he took this risk as well, and now that he lost it, he lost it. And the Gemara says, what is the definition of chazaka? The Gemara says, when you walk around the borders of the field looking to see what it needs. Now, the Gemara discusses what happens in the same situation where there was a chayes. He did take responsibility to replace the field if something happened to it, but his responsibility was only if he lost it because of a loan, because of a lien that was on the land. So there the Gemara brings a machlokes, whether he has to replace it in this case where he lost it for other reasons or not. One says yes, and the other one says, he can say, show me the document that they took the land away from you in court illegally, and then I'll replace it for you. Until you could show me that document, I don't have to replace anything. Now the Gemara goes way back to a discussion we had much earlier where we had a contradiction as to what you could use to pay for Nezikin that you caused. We saw in one place it says you have to pay kesef. In one place it says it has to be meitav. This would be either money or the best property that you have. So the Gemara now gives another answer to that. Rav Huna says either one. You could pay, you have the option. You could either use money or you could use the best property that you have. So Nachman asks right away, but we said that it's Yashiv, it says Kesef Yashiv, the word Yashiv is to include other types of returnings, to say that you don't have to use money, you don't have to use meitav, you could even use subin. So how are you answering the question? You could even use bran. So the Gemara says when you could use bran, if Huna means you can only use bran if you don't have anything else. So Gemara says if you don't have anything else for sure, you could use bran. You don't have meitav, you don't have anything more meitav than that, you don't have actual kesef, so what's the chiddush there that you could use? This is what you have. So Mara says you may have had a havamina that he actually has to go buy. He has to go sell his brand and get money for it, and then give the money to the person that he owes for Nezikin. You would have thought that he can't get away with just giving him the subin and saying you sell it. He has to go sell it himself, and therefore the chiddush is not. The Gemara now brings a statement of Rav Asi and has a few options as to what it means. So Rav Asi says money is like land. Rav says money is like land. What does he mean to say? First suggestion is that it means to say the same exact thing as Rav Huna, that money is like land. You could use either of those options to pay for Nezikin. You could give money or you could give land. So Gemara says if that's what he meant, he should have just said, the Gemara should have just said, that Rav Asi says the same thing as Rav Huna. Why do we express it as a separate mimer? So Gemara's second attempt is to say we're talking about a case where two brothers divided up their inheritance of their father's estate, and one of them took all the money and one of them took all the land. And then along came a Baal Chayv, and he collected part of the Chayv. And he took the land, obviously, because the halacha is that a Baal Chayv can only collect from Yarshim when there's land. So he can only take the land. There's his shibud, his lien exists only on the land that was passed through inheritance. It does not exist on the cash. So the brother who lost his land goes to the brother who got the money, and he says, hey, why don't you give me half of the money that you got since I lost all the land? I lost my entire chelek. Give me half of yours now. So the halacha is money is like land, and he has a right to say that. He has a right to say, I have a right to the money just as much as I had a right to the land. Now the Gemara's two versions as to what the kasha on this is, and interestingly, they're exact opposite kashas. The first kasha is that pshita is obvious. Why is any one brother? Why would I think that one brother has the rights to keep the money over the other one? They're both brothers, they're both sons, they're both inheritors. The other option is that no, he does not have a right to say that, because the brother who's holding the money can say, when I took the money, there was a reason why I chose money over land. When you took the land, there was a reason why you chose land over money, and it worked out for me. It didn't work out for you. You can't go back now. The reason that I wanted the land over the money is because I knew that nobody could take it away to pay off a chayv. And the reason that you wanted the land over the money is because you knew that no one could steal the land. And if I would have had my money stolen, I couldn't come to you and claim that I want your land. So just like you had your land taken away by the Baal Chayv, you can't come to me and claim that you want the money in exchange. Therefore, the Gemara offers a different shot. It's referring to two brothers who divided only land. Each one got half the land, and one came by Baal Chayv, and he took away the land of one of them. Now here, obviously, you would say that he should be able to go to the other one and say, we each took land, there's no reason why I should lose my land any more than you, let's split the remaining land half and half. What Rav Asi means then when he says that land is like money is that that brother doesn't have to give him land, he does have to pay, but he could give him just money. But he could give him money instead of land. Money is just as good as land, he doesn't have to give him actual land. Now the Gemara asks that Rav Asi already said this halacha once, and the Gemara brings the same sugya. What happens when brothers split an estate, they each get land, and a Baal Chayv comes and takes away the land of one of them? There's three opinions as to what happens. Rav says the original division of the property is void, and they have to look at what's left, or redivide it completely all together. That's because Rav holds that brothers, when they divide, are inheritors, they're Yarshim. They each inherit half the estate. Here, half the estate was not inherited, so they have to go redivide it all over again. Now, Shmuel holds, no, the brother who lost his land doesn't get anything. It's his loss. He has to suffer the loss. And the reason for that is because he says that brothers, when they divide up the land, it's like they purchase from each other. They each inherit the entire land, and they each swap. And they say, I'll give you half of what I got in exchange for half of what you got. And that's why they each end with half the property. But they are purchasers from each other, and the purchasers shaloi b'chayis. So if one of them loses his property, he does not get anything replaced for him. And the opinion of Rav Asi is that he gets back a quarter of the land. Instead of getting half, he gets back a quarter, which means he gets half of what we would have otherwise thought. The Gemara says his reason is that he's misapek, and it's a suffix if the brothers are Yorshim or they are purchasers, and therefore it's a suffix if they get back half the land or they get back nothing. And he paskins monim with the suffix cholkin whenever they have a machlokes like that, and you have a fair suffix, you split it evenly, therefore they each get a quarter of what's remaining. Now, this means we'll have the problem because Rav Asi shouldn't be repeating this halacha. I already said it in this discussion. So the man says, okay, I have to say a different shot what Rav Asi meant when he said that money is like land. Rav Asi actually meant to say that when you have to pay a nizik with meitav, you could also pay with money. Money counts as meitav. So Gemara says that is the same as Rav Huna. So Gemara says, yes, well, I'll change the text here to just read V'chein of Rav Asi, and he's saying the same thing as Rav Huna. Now the Gemara goes to another halacha, that's a statement of Rav Zera, the name Rav Huna, who says that for a mitzvah you have to pay up to a third. The Gemara is not sure what to mean. The Gemara says up to a third, you mean you have to pay up to a third of your complete estate? You have to spend all the money you have, up to a third of all the money you have on a mitzvah? That means if somebody has 3 mitzvahs to do, he has to spend all the money he has on it? That can't be right. So the Gemara therefore says, no, what Rav Zera means is in a hider mitzvah. And in order to add hider to a mitzvah, you have to add up to 1/3 of the value. There is an Indian, there is a mitzvah of Zakir Vanveyu to try to purchase the most beautiful things for a mitzvah. You should increase value by 1/3 in order to do that, not more than that. Now the Gemara says 1/3, you mean 1/3 of the value of the original, or 1/3 of the value of what you're actually spending, which ends up being half the value of the original. Meaning, if the original cost, let's say, $6, so I should add 1/3 of that, and I should spend up to $8. Or if the original cost $6, I should add half of that and add $3, and therefore I'm now spending $9, which is 1/3. I added 3, which is 1/3 of the total 9 that I'm spending now. Which is it? So Mar says Teku. That question stands. We don't know which one it is. The Gemara just adds another thing here that in Eretz Yisrael they say in the name of Rabbi Zera, when we say add a third, we mean add a third from your own money without expecting Hashgacha to pay you back. Maybe you can add more than that, and that more you will get returned to you from HaKadosh Baruch Hu with his Hashgacha Pratis. Now, this concludes the Gemara. Now we begin the next Mishnah. The next Mishnah uses somewhat cryptic language, and it describes the halacha of what you're responsible to pay for, to whom you're responsible to pay, and in what place you're responsible to pay. So first of all, it says, what am I responsible to pay for? Anything that I'm obligated to watch. It's my responsibility to guard. Then it is my responsibility to pay for its damages. If I caused or am responsible for part of the damage, I have to pay for the full damage. Now, to whom am I responsible to pay? So the Mishnah says everyone except for hektish, what the Mishnah calls the chasim she'ein bahem me'ila. You don't have to pay for anything other than the chasim that don't have me'ila halachos, meaning hektish, I don't have to pay for. I don't have to pay if it's a nachri, and I don't have to pay if it has no owner. So the three conditions you need to have: it has to be an owner, not hektish, and not a nachri. It has to be from b'nei bris. Now, the last halacha that the Mishnah concludes with is what place. So it says any place, except for the mazik's private rishus, because the nizik doesn't belong there, and a rishus that is jointly owned by the nizik and the mazik. Of course, the Gemara will have to explain how that makes any sense. And the Mishnah concludes with the same line as the first Mishnah. When the damage happens, the mazik is obligated to pay the payment for the damages from the meitav aretz, from the best property that he has. And now we begin the Gemara, which will explain the lines of the Mishnah one by one. So first of all, what does it mean when it says anything which I'm responsible to guard it, I'm responsible for the damages? What is being taught there? So the Gemara says we're talking about, the Gemara quotes a brisa that says we're speaking about a shar, a bar, or a fire. It's your responsibility, but you give it over to someone to watch, but that person is not individually responsible. It's a cheresh, shaita, or katan who don't have their own responsibilities. And the damage happens. So if it's a shar and a bar, you're chayiv, it's your responsibility, because you gave it over, and you remain responsible, and therefore you need to pay for the damages. Or a fire, then it's not your responsibility, and therefore you're okay. So Mara's wants to know what's the difference. So let's try the options here. First of all, are we referring to where it is protected? Without the cheresh, shaita, the katan is protected innately. So that would be if the shar is tied, the bar, the pit, is covered, and the fire is a coal which is not able to fan itself into a flame on its own. So you should be putter in all these because you should not expect anything to happen. You should be able to legally consider it to be protected. Why is there any issue? Okay, so maybe you say we're referring to it's not protected and it could spread it and it requires someone to watch it. That would be a shar that's untied, a bar that's uncovered, and a flame which could easily spread unless you contain it. So again, the question would be, why should there be a difference? You should be chayav to pay for that as well. The Gemara quotes Rish Lakish, who says in Chizkiah that the only time you're not chayav for a fire is if you give a coal to a cheresh, shaita, v'katan, and then he blows on the coal and creates it into a flame. But if you gave him a flame that spreads on its own, you're chayav because he's not responsible for it. You're responsible, and you didn't put it in a safe place. The Gemara refers to it as very hazeka. The damage is common and likely to happen. So what then are we referring to? Why is there a difference between the fire as opposed to the bar and the shar? So where it says we're referring to when they're tied and the flame is just a coal, where it's not spreadable. And the difference is as follows. A shar, if you leave it without protection, will work his way out. He won't remain tied forever. He gets less and less tied as time progresses. A bar has a cover, which will start falling in. It'll start rotting and breaking, and it'll fall in. So these proceed naturally towards becoming more and more dangerous, more and more of a problem. But a coal, it goes out. You leave it, it goes out. And therefore you're not responsible for it. You were not responsible to do something to guard it and protect it because it is secure. But the shar and the bar, at some point, is going to require additional protecting, and you did not provide that. Now, the Gemara says Rav Yochanan holds that even if you give a flame to cheresh shaita v'katan and it spreads, you're potter for that. Now, a flame in the shar and the bars parallel is an untied shar and an uncovered hole. So therefore, Rav Yechon would learn that this Gemara should be taken as face value. We're talking about an untied char, uncovered hole, a loose flame, and there the halacha is that if you give them to a cheresh shaita v'katan, you're responsible for the shar and the bar, but not for the fire. That's what he seems to be saying. So what's the reason? So my answer is because the cheresh shaita v'katan, their action makes the flame worse. Without them, the flame wouldn't be so bad, and therefore it's not your responsibility. But the shar and the bar, the cheresh doesn't make it worse. It doesn't move it anywhere. The fire, he moves around, he brings around, he puts it in the wrong spot. But the shar and the bar are a danger on their own. You're giving it to the cheresh shaita v'katan and didn't make it any worse.